But I believe at some point in the next 2 weeks, the switch is going to flip, and that's when they become that team that they've always been striving to be throughout the season.
I just flipped the switch.
I don't know nobody else is doing this.
Let's go.
It felt like the NFC was going to struggle. Like it would be hard to figure out who's going to come out of the pack in the NFC. Now it looks that way in the AFC. There are a lot of teams vying for these playoff spots in the AFC. The Chiefs are not as dominant as we probably thought they would be coming into the season. The Buffalo Bills are reeling, somehow finding ways to win games, but they're really in a tough spot when it comes to that wild card. The Miami Dolphins, a gimme game against the Tennessee Titans that they should have won on Monday night. They didn't win that game. The question is, who is going to survive in the AFC? Dub, if you had to make a choice on who would be coming out of the AFC, who's your pick today with 4 games left in the season?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because right now we have Baltimore sitting at the top with 10 wins, and then we have Miami, who gave up a oopsie last night to the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans, honestly, don't have a bad roster. So that's not an L to frown upon, but I don't know if they're above 500 if I'm not mistaken. Nonetheless, the Chiefs are still in the picture. They're on a 2-game losing streak, but I don't foresee that happening for too much longer. And they know how to play good at the right time. Just certain things they have to clean up. The receivers have to catch the ball. I think the play calling is fine. The defense is immaculate. They've been playing some really good defense, and historically, that just hasn't been the thing for the Chiefs. With that being said, I'm going to have to go with the Miami Dolphins. I wanted to say Baltimore, but it's something about the playoffs with Lamar Jackson, man. It's something about him. I can't put my finger on it, but the way that the Miami Dolphins roster is comprised, you got Jalen Ramsey, who just came back from injury. He's catching interceptions all across the field. Make sure you guys check out Hard Knocks too. The end season, season with the Miami Dolphins. It's great. Mike McDaniels, leader of men. Like I told JT early in the season, actually before the season started, Mike McDaniels is a leader of men, and I like his approach to the game. So I think the Miami Dolphins, man, have what it takes to make it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. I'm very surprised to hear you say that because I also have the Miami Dolphins as my pick coming out of the AFC. Listen, Dub always emphasizes peaking at the right time. The Miami Dolphins have not played a complete game yet this season. They have the most weapons on offense. When you look at Devin Achani, when you look at Mostert in the backfield, you got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, you got Chase Claypool if he ever gets it all together and puts it all out there on the field. Defensive wise, they did have some injuries. Phillips went down, but again, you got Jalen Ramsey back. Pretty stout defensive line who can play better. This Miami Dolphins team is primed to go on a run these next couple of weeks and go into the playoffs with some momentum. And I think if they can do that, this team is going to be a problem. When you think about just looking at Miami and the different ways they can score, the way that Tyreek Hill can stretch the field, the way that they can take, short screens and get touchdowns out of them, this offense is just dynamic. All they need is for the defense to play a full game. Or, some games with the Dolphins, the defense plays great and the offense doesn't. I think with the Titans game, you could probably blame it on the offense. Once Tyreek Hill got hurt, they couldn't seem to score and get their rhythm going. But the defense played pretty well starting the game out, had a touchdown, just overall good football. When they pull it all together, this is the best team in the AFC, if you ask me, outside of a healthy Cincinnati Bengals. And I think this Miami Dolphins team will be in the Super Bowl. And if you guys look back and remember, I called it before the season. I said Dallas Cowboys, Miami Dolphins, and I still think it's a Dallas Cowboys, Miami Dolphins Super Bowl. So let's see if that happens to be right at the end of the season.
Let me pick on one of your statements that you made. I'm not even going to address the Cincinnati Bengals fully healthy team being the best team, one of the best teams in the AFC. I'm not even going to address that because it's ludicrous. I'm not going to address it. What I am going to address is you saying that they did not have not played a complete game this season. I would have to respectfully disagree. When they tore up the Denver Broncos' ass,
It was the Denver Broncos.
but the
Uh,
Broncos
like
playing
like
well right now. They playing
and the knock on the Dolphins has been that they hadn't beat anybody good. That's been the knock. That's what
so.
everybody's talked about. So when I say a complete game, I'm simply talking about when they go out there and play another playoff contender. Now Denver has turned their season around and put
Yes,
themselves in contention as of late with a great win streak. You know, you got to take your hats off to Russell Wilson, all the criticism he was getting, Sean Payton, him just being a leader of men, as you said about Mike McDaniels. You got to give him credit. However, the Dolphins' beating of the Broncos is not an inclination of what they'll be able to do against the Ravens
you
or the
got to
Texans,
you got
or
to.
even looking this week what they were able to do against the Titans. Because if you beat the Broncos like that, the Titans should have got some similar treatment.
Here's the issue with the Miami Dolphins, and all the points that you made were very valid. They're very valid. Their highs are good, but when they hit that high, they hit lows. When they beat the Denver Broncos the subsequent week, they lost. They lost. They should have won that game. And then the week prior to playing the Tennessee Titans, they played the Commanders, and they tore the Commanders' ass up. So they need to find a way to be consistent. That's really what makes good teams great teams. Being able to take those high moments, compartmentalize those moments, and move on to the next week and not worry about the previous week or what's going on ahead of you. Your
Yeah,
tunnel vision. So I think Miami really needs to work on that. If they can get that put together, I guess you would say that's a complete game, right? Being able to go from game to game, being consistent, not being too high, not being too low, and getting the job done. I think they need to work on that. If they can figure that out, they going to the Super Bowl, man. They
yeah.
got the.
And if we're honest, the Dolphins should be 13-0. They should be 13-0 right
I'm
now.
gonna say that. I'm gonna
They,
say that.
I'll say that because to
They're 11.
me, all of the losses they had, to me, at some point, there was just, whether it was early in the game or later in the game, there was just a breakdown. And it's like, what I find is when watching the Miami Dolphins, when they face adversity, they're not able to turn it around in game. You know, Tyreek Hill gets hurt. Yeah, that's a momentum killer. That's your big play guy, but you still got to find a way to win. You still got to find a way. The coaches got to find a way. You got two great running backs with elite speed, and you got to find a way to put these guys in position and beat a Tennessee Titans team, you know, at home. You know, if you're going to be a Super Bowl team. So I think that's the thing that I've seen is just when that adversity hits, they're not able to turn it around.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
and a lot of teams, when you look at great teams, when you look at your New England Patriots and the dynasty over periods of time, when Tom Brady and team, when they faced adversity, Super Bowl, Atlanta Falcons, they're down, right? They face that adversity, they're able to flip it. Great teams are able to do that. The Denver Broncos, when they won the Super Bowl with Peyton Manning, some of those Indianapolis Colts teams when they played the Saints in the Super Bowl. These great teams face adversity and they flip it on its head and they come back and they win games. And until the Dolphins do that, people aren't going to be believers. But I believe at some point in the next 2 weeks, the switch is going to flip, and that's when they become that team that they've always been striving to be throughout the season.
I just flipped the switch.
I don't know nobody else is doing this. Hey, listen, we giving it to you straight. You let us know what you think about the Miami Dolphins or who you have winning the AFC. We need to know. Drop it in the comments below. As always, give us that CLS treatment, comment, like, subscribe. We'll be back with more from me in the arena.